Yeah, we are connected here.
Yes. A second. Okay. Yeah, so, hi, Rumon. So, I would like to ask you some questions about my interview. So, can you introduce yourself if it's all right?
So, hi Jawar, I am Roman Katidash. I am working as an assistant engineer with Kier Group PLC. My primary job enrollment is within Kier Highways, and especially I am working with Kier flooding and drainage design team. So
Okay.
that's me, and I'm working here from.
So,
Mhm.
so, would you like to tell about your role, what you do on a daily life
So
basis?
okay, so as I mentioned that I am working as a assistant engineer within the design team. So my job mainly incorporates within the designing drainage features like pipe network and considering the flooding situation. And our primary job enrollment is basically within highways. So we have basically my job role is split up in two parts. In major part of the time, I basically works with national highways, and basically we design drainage features, maintenance work, remediation to alleviate flooding in under any assets or any road network which basically falls within national highways. And there is another part, sometimes we work with many local planning authorities. So currently right now I am working with Northamptonshire County Council, as they have one lead local flood authority. So right now I'm working as a member of this flood uh, lead local flood authority maintenance scheme team.
Okay, okay, Roman. So I would request to keep the set of questions on your side so I can, when I
Mhm.
say it, you can also refer at the same time by reading it.
Okay. Okay.
So is everything set? So I will start asking the questions if it's okay.
Yeah, yeah, you can. You can use please.
Okay. So so I would like to ask you, my first question would be, how commonly are quarry waste and construction and demolition waste like C&D in your experience? It can be any experience
Mhm.
from your time in your home country, or something you're working in London, in UK right now.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, regarding my personal experience, I worked around 5 years back to Bangladesh. That was basically related with construction and development. And I'm working in UK for last almost 2 years. So regarding the use of construction demolition waste in various construction projects, what I found so far, the use of basically reuse of existing materials is not that much common so far, though it is being popular gradually, but till now people are not that much familiar or comfortable with using or reusing the earlier waste materials. So is it okay, or we need to go further on this question?
Yeah. So, once a slight question before I go on. Is the
Mhm.
network okay from your end, right? Because when
Yeah,
the
from my end it's
recording
fine. I
happens,
can hear it.
it comes from your screen. So it'll be, yeah, so
No,
it'll
yeah,
be
yeah, I can
crystal
hear everything.
clear from your end.
Right
Am I
now I'm
right?
having. Can you speak again, please?
No, no part will be really clear, right? You
Uh,
might have a clarity of my
so
internet.
right now,
The recording
yeah. So
happened
in
from your
my
side.
end, yeah. So my end, it is fine, but right now your
Okay.
video is not that much clear. But so far,
I
it's
want
somehow
your
fine.
answers to be
Is there any network issue? Because I cannot hear you. Your screen is really
will
freezing
be
now.
crystal clear, right? Yeah, it
Sorry.
is because my network is really bad. I don't know how to do it anymore.
Let
I'm
us
trying to
try
boost it,
continuing
but it's
and
not
see.
boosted.
Yeah, sometimes it
Okay,
work perfectly.
okay,
So yeah, let us try to continue it.
okay. So, are there any practices that support to your use of materials in private house construction?
So what is the question? In formal or informal practices?
Yes, that
Uh,
support the use of constructional waste materials in private housing
mhm.
construction.
Okay, so from my experience, what I have found so far, there is no provision in the existing standards regarding different construction projects or construction guidelines. Still now, there is no provision for using those materials. They do not cover, as far I know, I maybe do not have the exact knowledge, but as far I know, there is no British standard, existing British standard on using on particular material. So those are the thing is still now is being under process and being improved. Some local builders or any developers, they may try to use any earlier materials, but that will be purely test basis, because as there is no existing standard. And another thing we know, if we are using any new material, most of the time we know the strength and properties of those particular materials. But as soon as any developer is using any existing material, existing means demolition materials, the properties, strength, and other factors may vary greatly depending upon site, durability, time, and other factors. So, in my opinion, regarding the formal or informal practice, those building up those standards and guidelines is still now lagging behind, but those are the things need to improve gradually.
Thank you for your answer. So we'll move on to the third question. Is there any kind of training or awareness like any professionals generally receive about using recycled materials in housing projects, something like that?
That answer will be yes, because in the professional world, what I personally feel and personally try to always get engaged, that is called CPD session. There are so many CPD session. It could be either online event. Most of the time, it organized in person, and even most of the events eventually facilitated by বিভিন্ন institutions like ICE and other organizations. So in those organizations, they usually organize multiple seminar or CPT session where the presenter share their experience regarding different projects, different materials, that sort of thing. So those are the training program right now available, and they may not cover fully only with using the demolition materials, but yeah, sometimes they do cover many aspects of those, and other people can know about those products over there.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. And then I would like to know about more about perception and public awareness. So I have some questions which are made for that. So
Mhm.
how do homeowners usually respond when using recycled materials for like foundations or retain walls?
Okay, so the
For
simple
example,
answer,
planks.
okay, so as it is regarding the client, the simple answer would be they are hesitant. So as soon as there is the word of waste materials, the public perception, they think waste means it's totally waste. So they are always confused about the material properties, the strength, quality, other thing. Though in many research we have found that the reusing those materials eventually ensure enough strength, durability, all sort of thing. But the public perception is they are confused as soon as they hear about the word waste. So that is the thing in my personal opinion, that we need to improve the public perception. We need to make them aware how it actually works.
Okay. So also another question would be, is there any general assumption that newer or factory-made materials are always better?
Okay, so there is another myth. So in general, in public perception is they always prefer to go for new materials. So the same thing when especially when the people is going to buy their first properties, especially, so they want to do their best even if it costs little bit more, but they do not want to take any risks. So the fact is it is not like that using the demolition materials is risky, but the public perception is they always want to stick with everything new. So they are going for a new building, they want new materials and everything new. So that is the public perception so far.
Okay. So is there, so the next question is, what are some effective ways to shift public opinions in your opinion? Is there anything in your mind?
So the I already answered this question with my previous question that uh, we need to make them aware. So that is the most important thing. So for example, in general, public will always look for new materials and new sort of thing. But as long as engineers or the related persons, they can make them aware about regarding different case studies. That for example, this is the housing project. You can see we build up this housing project based on the waste materials they have taken from the other project. So if we can make some presentation or visual comparison from real life experience, and another factor could be, for example, if we make some trial and error, for example, test run. So we have taken demolition materials from there, and with those materials, we have prepared that sort of concrete, for example, and tested and found that the strength is sufficient enough. So as long as we can make them technically aware that this is the strength, this is the durability, this is the quality, everything we are maintaining within standard. So I hope eventually people will be much more comfortable with using demolition materials. So the core point is we need to make a white paper.
Uh, so now I would like to ask you some technical insight questions. So what technical considerations must be made when using CND waste in structural applications? Do you have any idea of it?
So I already mentioned few terms earlier. The major important thing will be the structural integrity, strength, durability, because that is the first important thing one structural engineer always looks for. The structure need to be always strength enough and durable enough. So as long as we are using demolition materials, it does not matter whether it's demolition materials or new materials, but the structure need to have sufficient structural integrity. So for this, in my opinion, the designer need to go for proper test if it has sufficient capacity, strength, everything or not. And another factor in my mind here, as soon as we are using waste material, this way does not mean waste from landfill, definitely waste from demolition projects, but that need to go for go checking for contamination. Because what I found, especially in UK, as I work with national highways and I found so far, for example, if there is any earlier construction, there is suspectable some risk from asbestos contamination. So those are things need to keep in mind, that if it is properly produced or if it have any risk of pollution from there or not. But yeah, that is the thing: strength, durability, contamination, even compatibility with the design standards. Those are the things need to be focused.
Opinion, are there any limitations or risk involved in these materials
So the only risk will be, as I already mentioned, that
when
the
processed properly?
yeah, yeah, okay. So yeah, so the only risk would be that the limited information we know about the product. So if there is any new material, though the material property is not consistent everywhere, but we may know some grading. For example, if it is concrete or if it is cement, we know the grading criteria, we know about the strength of the material. But as soon as we are reusing demolition materials, the in as built the properties, sometimes it is not clearly defined. So that is the only risk, especially if we are going to use it for foundation and retaining wall. It may collapse if it do not provide cannot provide sufficient structural strength, but that can be overcome with proper testing before implementing it on the site.
Okay. One more question would be: do you have any knowledge, like kind of quality testing in your mind? Like,
So it will depend upon case
like
to
any
case. For
names of the methods that you use for quality testing?
So in that case, my to the point answer will be the designer or engineer need to follow the design standards. For example, if the materials is going to be used for structural use, there are some structural guideline. For example, if this material is going to be used for only for pavements, for example, this pavement can be for the car park. So depending upon the use of the materials, the design standard will also get changed. So in that case, my to the point answer will be the designer or engineer need to focus where the materials is going to be used, what sort of loading or things it will encounter over its lifetime, and based on this situation, the engineer or designer, whoever is working on it, need to offer multiple tests, and most of the time those tests will be guided by design standards.
Uh, so the implementation challenges would be the next question. So, what is the biggest barriers to using recycled materials in construction? Like, is there any cost regulation, labor knowledge, or something else in your opinion?
I would say the biggest challenge from clients end, that lack of awareness. There is one thing that can be solved with proper campaigning or making them aware. But if I consider technically or scheme wise, I would say the greatest drawback here is uh, limited information regarding the materials. So, and another thing, the standard coverage. So there are so many existing standard in within British standard, or for different works we have so many uh, regulatory compliances we need to maintain. But as far I know so far, that regarding reusing the waste materials, those do not directly cover within specific design standards or design guidance. So those are the things need to build up, in my opinion.
Okay. Now I'll be asking you. So, is there any support from industries or government for using these kinds of materials more, or so, like like safety or
Jawad, I cannot hear
safety
you. Can you hear me?
and effective guidelines or such for such materials?
Can you repeat the question again? Because I could not hear you. The screen was
Like,
totally freezed.
do you have any support from the government?
Okay, so regarding the government, we in especially in
Okay, I
UK,
can hear you.
we
Can I ask you the question again? So,
yeah, it
so
would be
for a
better.
local,
Mhm.
okay. So, in your opinion,
Can
there's
you
a
repeat?
time you can answer, please.
So the problem is I could not hear you again. So we are having some network issues. So it would be good if you can repeat the question again, please.
So, is there any local or given using these kinds of materials?
We are really having some network issue here. Can you hear me? Hello, hello, Jawan.
Okay. Okay. Hello, hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but your screen is totally freezed.
Okay, it's fine. Even if my screen is freezed, it's okay. Can you hear my audio? It's okay.
Let us try keeping it continue because earlier I could not hear you anything actually.
Okay, so I'll ask the question again. So,
Mhm. Or bad luck, as soon as you start asking the question, your voice is totally gone.
okay. So let me just check with the internet. Okay, just give me a second.
Yeah, take your
I'll
time,
try
no
switching
problem.
back to my. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So, do you think do you have any support from local governments and industry to help you use of these kind of materials effectively? Like, is there like any kind of promotion for it?
Okay, so as I earlier explained, I'm basically working with design team. So while we are working on the design team, the standards and while we especially we work with the clients, most of the time our first approach would be to reduce the waste materials. That is the primary thing we always strive for. And especially you may not hear about the sustainability and you always look for reducing the carbon footprint amount. So that is why we always try from the local government also, they always try to prioritize using less materials as less possible and reduce the number of waste materials. So those are the suggestions or guidelines or even the prioritization from the local authority. But right now there is far I have worked on, there is no standard guidance on using those materials. But local government or local authority, they always try to prioritize using the quantity of materials using in a construction.
So next question will be, do you think construction techniques like the use of red soils and foundations offer practical sustainability lessons for today's home builders?
So using, as you particularly mentioned, of the traditional construction techniques, as I said, the usual tendency is people always try to stick what they are doing earlier traditionally. And another practice is, for example, as I said regarding the carbon emission, the one of the major contribution of the carbon emission comes from the transportation. So as soon as any designer or contractor need to design materials to transport it from somewhere else, it will add some additional carbon footprint within the scheme. And as a designer, our target, not target, we always prioritize to reduce the emission value. So in that case, and as your question was regarding the home builders, they also have some sort of priority to reduce the cost and other thing. They usually tend to move for traditional materials, which is locally available. And regarding the sustainability, as I already mentioned, it may not be same for all the cases, but in most of the cases, using traditional construction technique like red soil and other thing usually works in favor of sustainability.
Um, is the use of these materials in long term durable, and is it good for environmental health?
So, as I said, it completely depends upon what the material we are working on. So, for example, if there is any construction demolition materials, for example, concrete waste, so we cannot put it anywhere. We need to take special measures to put those things away. And another fact is, as long as we are constructing something new, we may need to use new concrete materials. So, which is basically regarding the environment, we are putting negative impact on the environment in the both end. That we are discharging those construction material in the environment. That is the first, and we are taking much more materials for the construction project, which is directly or indirectly related with the carbon emission. So, in my opinion, the question was regarding overlooking the time tested local practice of those materials. I would say regarding the long term durability and environment, those should need to be prioritized using in any construction.
So, about the old concretes, this is a question that is a bit outside. About
I could not hear you. Can you repeat again, please?
about the old concretes, is it
Mm-hmm.
safe to be used in foundations for if cured properly for
So
foundation?
yeah, so okay. So I already explained these questions with earlier question that need to be tested before, because depending upon the construction materials, this answer cannot be put in general, because regarding what the earlier materials was used, because every single scheme, single project is different. Neither two project can be same in anywhere. So based on the material used in the earlier project. For example, if the earlier project do have some asbestos material, definitely this construction material cannot go for using in any secondary project. But yeah, if the earlier project was sustainable enough, was do not did not have any contamination or any risk to the public health, this material definitely can go for secondary construction project, but that need to definitely go through a proper testing for, as I said, for structural safety as well as the environment safety, both.
What about your opinions on scrap steel, which is used in
So,
concretes before? Can it be recycled again?
yeah, in general, for example, as I work in Bangladesh and right now working in here, in general it can be used, but the point I'm making here, every single scheme is different. So it cannot be generalized that all the demolition materials can be used directly. Whatever the project is, in the answer is yes, the materials can be used, could be sustainable, but they need to be used only after proper testing.
Okay, only after proper testing. Okay, then I would like you to. So right now I'm switching to a bit to the end of the question session. So I
Mhm,
would like you to have, with the trends right now which are going on. Okay,
mhm.
what do you see or foresee in the use of recycled or sustainable materials in private home in construction over the next 5-10 years?
Okay, so in my personal opinion, I am expecting the rate of use of demolition materials will gradually increase, because the due to the increased technology and new method will definitely can differentiate between contaminated materials and uncontaminated materials, which will definitely provide sufficient structural strength for the new developments as well. And with the progress of the technology and sharing knowledge, definitely the clients they will also be aware of the goods and benefits from using those waste materials. So I'm expecting over 5 to 10 years or even long term, the use of demolition materials will eventually increase.
Okay, so is there any advices that you can give me about planning to use quarry waste and C&D waste for building foundations, for
Okay.
foundation uses, which are like properly, after done doing the studies based on it, how would you,
Mhm.
you know, tell me on your, would you give your advice on this topic?
Okay, so in single word, my advice would be trial run because the prioritization should be here to use those materials, demolition materials, in a low risk development. For example, if someone is planning to build 100 houses or 100-story building, it may not be wise plan to go for waste materials directly there. Rather, if there is any small scale development like one-story building or small scale projects, those materials can be used there first and see how it actually behaves if there is a structural or environment problem. So if it works perfectly fine for low risk application, after that we can gradually go for bigger planning. But in that case, my opinion would be proper planning, moving forward gradually stage by stage, that could be beneficial for using those materials.
Another question which is outside this would
Mhm.
be, how much have you seen the how much have you seen the processing of the old C&D waste from Bangladesh or from UK?
Okay, so as I said at the very beginning, the public perception is not in favor of it yet, but
No, no, no.
gradually it's
Like
improving.
I meant like in just the processing, but like to clean the wastage. How do you
Mhm.
have you seen much of a work on that end? Like not for construction purposes, at least for cleaning and
So,
separation.
okay, so I have not I was not involved or I have not encountered any major scheme where the construction materials was used. So I was studying in few journals and other resource materials. I found in many cases they are being implemented. But to be frank, in my personal experience, I never been encountered any scheme or development where the construction materials is being reused.
Okay. Thank you for your time. That's the end of my questions. So the recording, if you can switch it off, if it's, can you switch off the recording if it's okay from your end?
Um, can you repeat again, please? Because I could not hear for last few seconds.
Can you switch off the recording if it's okay?
Oh, yes,
Because
please. Okay, yeah, that's fine now. Yes, thank you. Just a minute.